Welcome to UU Wellspring, Spiritual Deepening for the UU Soul. I'm Linnea Nelson, the Executive Director of UU Wellspring, and today we're going to be talking about UU Wellspring Online. So UU Wellspring has been online for 4 years already. We've had many successes, and people tell us that it is a wonderful way to connect, either when you can't connect in person or when it is more helpful to connect online. And success looks like this to us. This is just one of the many quotes we got at the end of last year from someone who took the program online. I see the gifts manifest in my relationship with myself, my family, and daily work. I have a deeper understanding of our faith, more of a UU identity, and pride in that identity. And I have a newfound desire to inspire more of that in our congregation. So sacred space can be created online, and that is a part of UU Wellspring. Since this past year, people have learned to get online, have become familiar with it, and have found that it is an important connection in their lives. We limit the bells and whistles so that people can focus on the content, and generally we don't share our screen. We are all just looking at one another, which is in and of itself a nice way to be together. You can start UU Wellspring Online and move to in-person if it's safe to do so. You may start online and stay online, or you might start in person and move to online later. It adjusts however you need to start and begin. And in case you're unfamiliar with UU Wellspring, I'll give you a short overview. It is a small group faith development that's been around for over 15 years. Usually 10 to 12 people come together for around 10 months, and it is layered with spiritual work. We have small groups that meet together and they make connections. There's daily spiritual practices that we guide you in and support you in. There's spiritual direction or spiritual companioning, where you meet with someone one-on-one outside of the UU Wellspring sessions to ask yourself even deeper questions. And it also allows for a deeper knowledge of UU history and theology, and every single session we ask ourselves to put our UU faith into action. Meet Tara. She started in the fall of 2019 in person in a group, and she moved onto the online platform in March of 2020. And as you can imagine, she's young. She actually is someone who works in the online field. It was very, very easy for her to move over to the program online. Suzanne and Colin also found that it was quite easy to move into the online way. And in fact, our group, these are people in my group actually that I lead in my congregation. And they were just delighted that we didn't miss a beat. We were able to move from in person one week, and as soon as it was unsafe to do so, we moved online. These are two religious professionals who have been online for the whole year. They started online. They knew this would be an online program, and they are continuing that way. What we found is that with each year, we've gotten some feedback and we've been able to move it into the program. So we take those ideas and we now share them with our facilitators. UU Wellspring is very much a sharing community. We meet regularly and we talk about what's working well, and we share any concerns that we have so that we can find ways to work together through them. The only piece that might be a little challenging is if someone has a spiritual practice, we usually share those in the sessions. And if someone has something that's, say, outdoors or perhaps takes specialized equipment, that's of course going to be a little challenging to do online. But people have gotten very creative with little videos and all kinds of things to help us understand what their spiritual practice is. When we do share them, we ask one another to actually do the spiritual practice in our sessions. And so we have to be a little bit creative there. But we know we need connection. Now more than ever, we want to be connected. We recognize and value it perhaps in a whole new way. And I know many congregations have found great success in having coffee chats and book groups and different ways of connecting, but people are also hungry for a way to deepen their Unitarian Universalist spirituality, their faith, and UU Wellspring guides them to do this. We can create sacred space online, and we are very intentional about it. We will guide the facilitators in how to create that space online that doesn't feel like then a meeting or doesn't feel like just a get together chat. We will give lots of suggestions and tips on how to go about that. We do a lot of breathing, we listen, and we find that the silences are just as important as the speaking. And if you've been on the Zoom platform, you know that you have to turn on and off your microphone to speak. And that little pause to have that time to turn on your microphone both helps everyone else that it's time to listen to you, as well as gives that pause in between speakers that's so important to let everyone's message land. We will be providing summer new facilitator workshops, little webinars that will help you kind of get online quickly and learn from people who've been doing it for a while. I do online facilitator sessions quarterly, so we gather together anyone who'd like to, and we gather usually around a topic that facilitators might be interested in or that I'm hearing from facilitators. And then we also take time for questions and answers. And there's a lot of sharing that goes on in those sessions. And the retreat leader is provided if this is your very first year in providing UU Wellspring. We do provide the leader. You can either have someone come to you online and share the cost of that with other congregations, or you can have someone travel to your location, which might be a little iffy this year. So maybe all of our retreats will be online. But what you'll find is that retreat leader will work with your congregational person who's in charge, whether it's a minister, religious educator, or lay leader, and you'll design the retreat together. We have it all planned out, but it might be that the person who's on site would like to provide some of the material, and the person who's beaming in, like I'm doing now, will provide the other parts. And then during the year, I provide the support for all the facilitators. The updating of the website is going to be a great boon to you. We're working on that right now because we're going to have a lot more tips for leading, how to organize your groups, things like that. Usually I send those out directly to facilitators, but I find that if it's right at your fingertips on our website, it will be very helpful. We do have 5 years of advanced curricula available, and so we hope that after you do your first year, which is always called sources, then you have 4 more to choose from, and we're working on a 5th. So by a couple years from now, we'll have 6 years possible. And many people find that retaking a session is always enlightening, and it's a whole new experience. So we have people who rotate through the programs in many different ways. Some basic tips for online leading in a UU Wellspring group is we still need to take the time to breathe. We still need to take the time for silence to be part of our togetherness. And we need time and the skills to listen. And that's part of what we teach in our retreat. We provide our spiritual practices for one another, and that gives another opportunity for us to connect and to have some new ways of deepening our spiritual lives. We do deep covenanting work. We spend a lot of time on the covenant, and we really don't just kind of gloss over it as a, oh yeah, this is what UUs do. We really think deeply about it. And we think about how it can be used to include people rather than exclude people. And when we do that work, sometimes we do it in the retreat, and sometimes it moves into the first couple of sessions. And then we revisit it regularly so that it is always serving the people in the group, so that we can be together in the way that we want to be together. There are many safety features of online platforms, and we'll be providing that for facilitators. I think many of you will be familiar with them, but certainly as we learn from one another, we might even garner some new ideas as we move through the year. So if you're thinking about starting a UU Wellspring program, know that no matter what the climate is in the fall, whether you're meeting in person or you're meeting online, you need to consider what date would work best for you. Although most people start, and most congregations start in September, you may find that some folks want to start in August this year. They're really needing that connection. I'll help you start whenever you'd like. I do recommend that you have a couple of months after you make the decision that you're going to have a UU Wellspring group, because you want time to gather people. You maybe want to have an info session. You want to have some time to handpick some folks that you think would be good leaders in the future, so that as your first year ends, you're probably going to have more groups, both groups going on to the advanced program, as well as some groups who want to restart a new sources group, first year group. And so you'll need several leaders for the next year. Every congregation is so different that I encourage you to just let me know you're interested. We'll set up a time to talk, and we'll talk about what needs your congregation has, and we'll get you started. I think UU Wellspring can really create the kind of connection that we need right now. It also creates joy, and that's so important when we hear the news and it's so disparaging, and we need to, and disheartening. We need to find some joy in life, and I think UU Wellspring can help us do that. It builds UU identity, which in this time we need our identity to be strong so that we can be moving into action, which is what we are called to do in this world, and we need to be strong in who we are to help us sustain that work. In case you're interested, UU Wellspring's been around for 15 years. Began with a small group, had some UUA grants, which we've had throughout. We hired some support staff, became a 501(c)(3), and then we began our pilot online groups in August of 2017, and every year they've grown from 2 groups the first year to 4. I think we were 4 groups the next year. We're 6 groups this year. And so as we just continue, we keep adding groups. And over 35 congregations have been taking part in UU Wellspring just this past year. And so we always get lots of great comments. If there are any concerns anyone has, we meet, and we usually are able to bring that into the program for the next year. So we're always updating, making it relevant so that it is the best program it can be for you the following year. One important piece is that we have lowered the subscription costs, and we did this way back in the fall before we knew that there would be all these extenuating circumstances. It used to be $1,500 the first year and $500 per subscription year after that. And we realized that we are finally in a position, we've been around long enough, we have a lot of congregations who are supporting UU Wellspring, that we can offer UU Wellspring at a much lower price to smaller congregations. So it is based on the number of people in your congregation. So if you report 150 people to the UUA in the prior year, then we would ask you to pay $150 for your UU Wellspring program. You know, we have congregations with close to 1,000 people in them who have already paid their dues for next year. They recognize that excuse me, they have multiple programs going on, UU Wellspring programs going on. They might have several advanced groups and also a couple of sources groups. And so they know that maybe per group it ends up being about the same amount of money. So contact me. I'd love to talk with you.